Super Bowl 57 is set for Glendale, Arizona on February the 12th. It's the Andy Reid Bowl. We can call it that. The Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles meeting up. Kevin Rogers with you, and we already have a line for the game. We have a total, and for all of that, we head out to Las Vegas. And our man Patrick Everson. And Patrick, it's good to have you on, and I'll let you spill the beans on this one. How did things open up with the Eagles and the Chiefs for Super Bowl 57?
Well, obviously, as we all saw, they had to really wait this one out. Wasn't a situation where there was really ever a point, especially by the time you got to the fourth quarter, that they could put this up early at all. But it opens at the Superbook at Pick'em between the Chiefs and the Eagles. And the total opens 48.5. I can tell you from looking at my mobile app that the total is already up to 49. So it's gone up a touch. And, so we're already on our way here. It's a little bit of movement in the total right out of the gate, but the spread opens at Pick'em, which basically means, there's nothing to worry about on the money line at this point. There's nothing to be said there yet.
Are you surprised by the way this number opened? And obviously, we didn't know this until a couple minutes ago from the standpoint of the Bengals and Chiefs were tied at 20. Cincinnati, the ball late. They had to punt. Kansas City had a great punt return, and then Mahomes ran out of bounds. The Bengals pushed him out, and it was an unnecessary roughness. So it moved the Chiefs up, and the Chiefs ended up winning the game. So we could have saw Bengals-Eagles instead of Chiefs-Eagles. How surprised are you where this line opened up?
Not that surprised, because what happened over the course of the week last week, I know this happened at Caesars and other books. They were letting people bet into potential Super Bowl matchups. And honestly, they've been letting people do it, via exactas and all those sorts of things for a while now. But last week, they actually had lines on the board as opposed to exactas where just Team A beats Team B. Unfortunately, I had two great Bengals exactas, doggone. But so those are dust in the wind at this point. But all of the possible matchups were all either -1 or Pick'em. So the fact that this open pick doesn't surprise me that much. I think if there was a point I think where we sensed in the first half that, especially if the Bengals didn't get that late score in the first half, with the Chiefs getting the ball to open the second half, that this could have got a little sideways, and much the same way that the Eagles started running away from the Niners. And I think if the Chiefs had been a little more impressive, then maybe the Chiefs open a favorite here. But, multiple odds makers indicated last week that regardless of the matchup, whether it was Eagles-Chiefs, Eagles-Bengals, 49ers-Bengals, 49ers-Chiefs, regardless of the matchup, it was all going to be sitting around one and Pick'em. And so that's where we are. We're at Pick'em for the moment for Super Bowl 57.
And also, too, Patrick, we saw just such low lines in these conference championships. And again, San Francisco had the quarterback issues that kind of set them back in that game against Philadelphia. Not taking anything away from the Eagles, but when they're down to the fourth-string quarterback and they can't throw the ball, it's a problem. But as far as Philadelphia goes, let's start with them. And they were the number one seed pretty much all season in the NFC. They were the last undefeated team left, and they only had one loss with Jalen Hurts at quarterback. This is a team under second-year head coach Nick Sirianni. They were in the Super Bowl in 17, granted, with Nick Foles as the quarterback and with Doug Peterson as the coach. So, in a sense, new regime, but they're back in it now, and they've dominated a lot. Now they go out to Arizona. And look, like you said, all these teams were kind of even through the year, or at least, somewhat even. That Philadelphia, at least your thoughts on how things opened with them and seeing this line, thinking maybe are they overvalued? Are they undervalued?
Well, the early indication is undervalued. This is what's so awesome about the mobile apps. You can just check this stuff right away. Eagles -1 already, and total up another half a point. So it opened 48.5 at the Superbook. They're up to 49.5, and Eagles are now -1 after this game opened Pick'em. Look, it's still basically a toss-up game, but the first move, -1, and there was, when I tweeted out, as soon as John Murray and Casey Degnan behind the counter gave me the opening odds, I tweeted them out right away, and there was already some Twitter feedback. And granted, some of these people may be public, some of these people may be sharp. They're just Twitter followers, but chattering about it. But immediately they were like, "Man, I'm taking the Eagles there, and I'll take them at 1 and 2 as well." And as it turned out, they were right. The first move actually goes to the Eagles, so they think maybe a little bit of undervalue on the Eagles. Not necessarily impressed with the Chiefs today, and Mahomes was certainly limited, but now Mahomes has 2 weeks. This is going to be, I expect he'll be much more mobile 2 weeks from now. Although I think it's going to take some time for him to heal up from today, because you could see late in the game he took a couple of hits. He had to make a couple of throws that put him in an awkward position on his ankle. But he does have 2 weeks here as opposed to the one that he just had to get through today.
Now, what about on the Kansas City side, Patrick, that, like you mentioned with Mahomes, that he gutted it out on that last run? You could see he was like, kick the field goal. Can't do this anymore. Kick the field goal. And obviously they have an elite field goal kicker, so that helped out, winning that game. But at the same time, the Chiefs have been to this game now, 3 of the past 4 seasons. I mean, you can argue, last year they blew the big lead against the Bengals, lost that game. This time they led the Bengals again, blew it, but they ended up winning the game. Experience a factor? You think bettors will look into that Mahomes has been there now 3 times? This is Jalen Hurts' first time in the Super Bowl?
I think they, like I said, out of the gate, the first move toward Philly, and I guess I see it, but I certainly feel like that experience factor has to be playing in, and not just with Mahomes. I mean, Kelsey is phenomenal, and he's probably going to be, I meant to hit him before today and didn't, and I'm going to regret it now, but I think he's, he was a little dinged today too, but he gutted it out and made several key catches. He could be a little bit of a, I wouldn't say a sleeper pick, but at least a longer odds pick for Super Bowl MVP. There's a lot of experience on that side of the ball. Yeah, a couple of key players have moved on, and, Tyreek Hill and so forth, but they had a lot of players step up today. They were getting banged up throughout the game. There was, it was a war of attrition on the Chiefs side, and they fought through it and had some second and third and even fourth string guys making plays, wideouts and so forth, who normally wouldn't be in the lineup. So I think you can't underestimate that. Mahomes has been there, done that, bought the T-shirt. Granted, at the moment, he's only got 1 Super Bowl win to show for it. But look, the guy basically willed his team to victory today.
I'm just looking back, Patrick, at some of the previous years as far as the totals go, because I'm seeing the total, jumping up a little bit at some of the books, 49.5. We're going to see a lot of this movement. But the last 4 years, though, under Rams Bengals, under Bucks Chiefs, under Chiefs Niners, under Patriots Rams, which was never in doubt. The last over we saw was the Eagles against New England. Granted, Brady and Foles in that game, and Nick Foles had the game of his life, but 4 consecutive unders in Super Bowls. I get what happened 3 years ago doesn't mean much here, but at the same time, Patrick, do you think that trend continues? Now we've seen 6 straight unders since the crazy overrun during Wild Card Weekend. That are people going to ride that under trend?
Well, I don't know that they will, and the reason they, generally speaking, the reason they won't, and this, and we talk, all of us in this content side talk about this all the time. The public action is generally going to overwhelm way overwhelm the sharp action. And the public wants everything positive, and especially when you get to the Super Bowl, because a lot of people bet on the Super Bowl who might not bet the rest of the year. It brings in a lot of not only the casual bettors, but just the literally even less than casual, the one-time-a-year bettors. Everybody wants to have, we're all going to our Super Bowl parties and so forth, and everybody wants to have a little skin in the game, and they want to see scoring. They want to be excited. So they're probably going to, I still think, maybe some of the smarter people will look at this and think there's a chance for that the under is the better play. Maybe they even think the over is the better play. I don't know. We'll have to see how this all unfolds. But the public is going to be on the over, and that's I don't think that's necessarily why it's up a point right out of the gate. I don't think a lot of public money is streaming in right now. I think it's usually the early action is the smarter guys, but the public's going to be all over the over by the time we get to Super Bowl Sunday, and I'll be stunned if there's a book in the country that needs the under, unless we hear something unusual on an injury front or something like that.
When you talk about Patrick, people, I don't want to use the term the casuals, but everyone kind of comes out to the party for the Super Bowl as opposed to, other sports or other times of year. How much in your experience are people betting first quarter, first half, that they want to, get that money early? I mean, you have the coin toss and other things like that. But as far as just not worrying about the entire game, just want to get through first quarter, first half, because basically if the line stays like this, it's win the quarter, win the half. You don't have to worry about the number.
No, that's a really good point. I'm not sure people look at it enough, honestly. I haven't heard, over the years, I haven't heard a lot of chatter about that. But this might be a situation, especially if this line stays relatively low, like you said, win the quarter, win the half. Get out and get an early payout. As you alluded to, they're going to be all over the coin toss, and in the global market, if you will, they'll be all over the national anthem and things like that. One, because it's an early payout, which is great, but also because it's just, it's just really entertaining to right out of the gate have a decision come. But I think it might come a little more into play here. I think your perspective on it makes sense, that this might be a good opportunity, depending on where this number ends up, over these next 2 weeks. It might be an opportunity to just think about that first quarter, think about that first half, get in, get out, hopefully win some money, and then enjoy the rest of the game.
Now, as far as the coin toss goes, Patrick, and I mean, I'm not a huge fan of it. It's all just random. But
exactly,
but
very random.
Do you know a lot of people personally that say, okay, this is all I care about. Let me just win the coin toss and get out and not even worry about the game? Or people just tie in the coin toss as far as like that, they have other bets they do, or it's just, I want to do this one, be finished, and that's it?
No, I think it's, generally speaking, you're not just going to do that one, especially just that one, the coin toss, and literally have nothing going the rest of the way. I think it's just a really fun prop. And yes, people love to get that early payout, and, right out of the gate. I mean, as soon as they, announce who won the toss, it's, and I think that's in some states, in some jurisdictions, that's how they have to frame it. They can't necessarily, they'll say who wins the coin toss, so that there is a winner and a loser, something that could be extrapolated from a box score if it needed to be, as opposed to saying, will it be heads or tails? It's who wins the toss. And when they announce who wins the toss, the book goes nuts. Everybody's on it, because it's just you literally are getting paid or not paid, hopefully paid, right out of the gate. But like you said, it's very random. I do think most people are on a lot of, if you're on that play, you're probably betting a lot of the other kind of fun plays and the very public, very square plays. And I admit, I do these too. I just like to have some fun with it. So I'll bet that yes on the safety, and yes on a 2-point conversion. And then there's my favorite. And this is, I don't know if this is a sharp or square play, but it's come up over the last couple of years. And a guy named, a good guy named Mitch Goldich with Sports Illustrated, he came up with this a few years ago, and he's finally gotten some books to start putting it up for Super Bowl. They still won't put it up in the regular season, and generally won't put it up in the playoffs, but we call it the octopus, and that's for a player to score a 2-point conversion, or to score a touchdown, the player who has the ball in the end zone, and subsequently score the 2-point conversion. So one player gets 8 points on one drive. Octopus. I love that prop. I'm definitely going to be betting it. I don't give a damn. I'm going to lose, but I'm absolutely going to bet it. And I think people who bet the coin toss bet a lot of those kind of things. Like I said, 2-point conversion, yes on overtime, those kind of things. I think they're just in it for a good time, and hopefully they get some plus money payouts on some of these too, and then maybe an early payout on the coin toss.
As far as the player props go, Patrick, I mean, you have two elite quarterbacks here, two guys up for the MVP, and Patrick Mahomes and Jalen Hurts, that I got to assume that the passing props, passing yards, passing completions, passing attempts, passing touchdowns, all of that, they're going to be pretty popular coming up in the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. Those will be all of those, and they'll be, and the bettors will be playing the over on those probably pretty heavily over the course of the next 2 weeks. So what the smarter bettors will do, will generally do, and what I would say our audience should think about doing. Look, if you want to, if you're thinking about betting just a prop, let's not talk about over or under, but if you're thinking about betting Mahomes over passing yards, over rushing yards, over attempts, over completions, whatever, the same with Joe Burrow, you're probably going to want to get in early if you want to bet the over. And if you were willing to sit tight and wait, look, the public's going to come in. They're betting on all the positive things. So they're going to be betting over on passing yards, over on completions, over on TD passes, all those things. Wait until game day. Wait until even close to kickoff if you can. Hopefully you can bet from the palm of your hand, and it's which most people can in all the legal regulated sportsbook jurisdictions in the United States. If you're looking to bet on, if you're looking for value, it might be on the unders closer to kickoff after the public has blown, inflated a lot of these numbers on these on the public plays that are often tied to the quarterbacks.
From the sportsbook perspective, Patrick, I mean, you're based in Nevada, but Pennsylvania is legal, so that works out for the Eagles. Ohio just got legal in January. They were hoping the Bengals would get in. But also what a lot of people don't realize that live outside the Kansas-Missouri area is you can drive over the state line, over Missouri, to go into Kansas and bet on these games if you live in Kansas City. Obviously, if you're in St. Louis, it's a longer drive. But if you're in Kansas City, you could still do that. So even though Missouri is not legal, Kansas is legal. So I
You
wonder
bet.
how all of that is going to work out over the next few weeks in those states.
Well, I imagine you'll see a pretty significant regional bias there, but with relatively speaking, because the regional bias up in the Northeast is going to be much greater because you've got huge population bases, and obviously sports betting is legal in Pennsylvania. Obviously, it's legal in New Jersey, which has a pretty significant Eagles faction, especially in closer to Philadelphia. It's only about 30-40 minutes from Philly to Atlantic City, and then you don't even have to go to Atlantic. It's not like you have to go from one to the other. It's legal in both states, but I think the play, coming in on Philly is going to be seems like it should be significantly larger in the regional bias perspective, just from a population standpoint. You're not going to have as much coming out of Kansas or people crossing over into Kansas or Missouri, but that can be overcome by the fact that Kansas City is now playing in its third Super Bowl in 5 years. And Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs have been an extremely public team for several years going now. So, while they may not get as much attention just based on the population size out of the Kansas City, Kansas area, out of that betting market that Philly will in its betting market, nationwide, the Chiefs will certainly not get overlooked here. It'll be interesting to see how it works out, but I think both teams will see plenty of action.
As far as other player props go, besides Jalen Hurts and Patrick Mahomes, I'm guessing Travis Kelce will be popular. A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, anybody else you're thinking of? Miles Sanders, possibly. I mean, the Chiefs don't really have a great, running attack necessarily. But who else do you think will be some other big names people will target, or will it just be those big names? Besides the quarterbacks.
I think you're right there. I mean, I'm not sure really who you really target on the Chiefs beyond Kelce and Mahomes. And Jason Scott at BetMGM was telling me earlier today, as it gave me kind of the rundown for what they needed and how these games were being bet today, that on the 49ers Eagles game, he said all the prop liability was running to the Eagles stars, and specifically, to your point, Hurts, Brown, Smith. They were all running to that. I do think you're right. I think Sanders will get in the mix there a little bit. But boy, on the Chiefs, it's a little hard to say. I would guess Kelce's going to get some pretty good run, and obviously Mahomes will. But look, that's going to give you an opportunity with both the Eagles and the Chiefs. We saw some other players today make some pretty big plays. They, maybe they weren't the ones that settled a prop or what have you, but Scantling had like 100 some odd yards or something, right? So, there will be opportunities with other players where you might be able to get a better number just because everything's so weighted to these star players in these two games, potentially.
Now, looking back, even, we talk about the totals over the years, Patrick, and last year the spread meant something. The Rams were laying 4.5. They beat the Bengals 23-20. So you had the favorite win, underdog cover. But for the most part, though, a lot of these games we've seen pick the winner. That's the way it's been. Buccaneers over the Chiefs, Kansas City over San Francisco, Patriots over the Rams, even going back, Eagles over the Patriots, Patriots over the Falcons in that wacky Super Bowl that went to overtime.
My goodness.
So really, when you look at how close the spread is in this game, that, I'm looking at these that are less than a field goal. And for the most part, the favorites, the last few years, you've had 3 straight favorites win. Patriots won as a pick 'em against Seattle. That was the last Super Bowl in Arizona, in fact. But yeah, at least you don't have to really worry. I don't think you're going to have to really worry about the point spread mattering in this game.
Right, and if the number's this low, you really won't. Basically, you're making a money line pick here. And but to your point, as you noted, historically, if you pick the winner, then you're going to cover the number. So I think you're very right there. That would seem to be the case here. I got to tell you this though, we're already up to 2.5. So they are hitting the Eagles pretty good right out of the gate. And Casey Degnan, senior risk supervisor here at the Superbook, he's going to come out and join us in just a second. I don't think I'm going to give him my earbud when I do and let you ask him some questions. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to hear through one bud. I may not. So you may just have to ask Casey some questions, but he can talk you through kind of how the sausage was made as they were bouncing these numbers around, watching these two games unfold today. But I would assume he's going to say they saw some sharp hits on the Eagles right out of the gate, because now they're sitting 2.5, dialed back to 49 on the total. The total initially went up a point. Now it's back to 49. Went 48.5 to 49, then 49.5. Now back to 49. So up a half a point from the opener. But already at Eagles 2.5 here, which I think is pretty interesting out of the gate.
I'd also be curious to know, I mean, it's all moot now, Patrick, but what that line would have been for Eagles-Bengals if Cincinnati would have won that game.
Absolutely. I think that's a great question. And Casey will hopefully be out here momentarily, and he can, I'm sure he can answer that. I know they were ready to go with what they were going to do on each side here. But, they knew it was going to be a short number, that's for sure, because the second game was really competitive. And I think they didn't, what they didn't do was overweight the fact that the first game was a blowout. They understood that San Francisco was in a awful position almost from the word go, not having their starting quarterback, who is their third string quarterback. All of a sudden they got to go to their fourth string quarterback, and then he gets concussed, and the third string quarterback comes back in and can't really play effectively. So I think they kind of discounted that and put the number at what they think is going to be a really competitive game.
Patrick, what other props, non-player props, I guess, are people you find that are very popular that people want to focus on as something to have fun with the game?
Oh, just have fun with the game. Look, the non-player props, I would say, the ones that the casual bettors, the recreational bettors, the ones they all love are some of the ones I already mentioned. Yes on a 2-point conversion. Yes on overtime. They'll bet that. Yes on safety. But you got to remember that with those nice plus money odds that you get on those, that there's a reason for that, and they're not value. There's not value on the yes there. So go into it clear-eyed. If you're betting some of these things, you're betting them for fun, and you're not likely to cash out. But those are a few of the fun ones. I'm trying to think. Sometimes they like to do some of the cross-sport props. These things start early in the day. It's really crazy. I mean, you've got at 6 a.m. Pacific time, you've got English Premier League games going off across the pond, and there will be cross-sport props tied into Premier League games and the Super Bowl, and early NBA starts in the Super Bowl. So there's no shortage of really fun and entertaining ways to engage in the game. You don't have to be on a certain player. You don't have to be on a certain team. You don't have to be on the money line or the total. There are a whole bunch of other really fun ways to engage, but there's also some smart ways to engage with some of these props. I mean, I see, one that I know the sharp guys tend to go to every year. Yeah, good to see you. Sorry, man. One that I know a couple of sharp guys who I talk to every year really like. They tend to take, I think it's over if field goals are 3 or even 3.5, they'll take the over on that. They just feel like that's just a super smart play. And then, like I said, what I'd say is, even if there's some that you are entertained by that are more of where the yes is the one that you want to bet because it's the one you're most entertained by, well, just bet it early. So at least you're going to get the best of the number, because everybody else is going to be betting yeses and overs on all these props, whether it's player props or other types of props. That's how that'll go.
I find it interesting, Patrick, and even though, again, what happened in the past is not as important, but just factoids like to throw out, that the Chiefs, the last 2 Super Bowls, they were favored. And now, as of now, I know we got to update the graphic, they are a short underdog.
Yep.
Philadelphia, in their last 2 Super Bowls, both against New England, they were a dog in both of them, covered both of them, won one and lost one. Here's something kind of funny. They were actually favored against the Raiders back in Super Bowl 15 with Dick Vermeil as the head coach opposite Tom Flores. You remember that Super Bowl at the Superdome.
Harold Carmichael, right? I loved Harold Carmichael. That guy was a beast.
That's right. And Jim Plunkett, he won the Super Bowl MVP. That the Eagles were favored in that game. Now, again, 40 plus years ago, doesn't mean much now, but just throwing those out just to tell you, the Eagles, this would be the second time they'd be favored. And the Chiefs, the last 2, they were favored. So now you're getting them in the dog role. And
exactly.
This is now the 3rd game at State Farm Stadium. I mean, we don't want to discount the game in Tempe, the Larry Brown game, the Cowboys beating the Steelers back in '95. But the last two at State Farm Stadium in Glendale, New England played in both of them, lost to the Giants, the David Tyree game, and then they beat Seattle on the Malcolm Butler interception. So now these two teams meeting up again in Arizona. Obviously, not a lot of factors as far as the stadium goes; it's indoors and all that. But no, this is going to be very interesting. And obviously, these teams did not meet this year, so you have no prior meetings to look back at. And this Kansas City team. Again, they were the ones that were, in a sense, I mean, I can't even say the ones that were the team to beat in the AFC was Buffalo this year. Buffalo didn't even play the game today.
Exactly. That's a great point. Hey, I got Casey behind me. Let me let Casey Degnan jump in. He's the senior risk supervisor here at the Superbook. Casey, roll on over here, man. Jump in a seat, and let's see if we can both fit in here, and I'll give you the earpiece, and I'll let Kevin Rogers talk to you. Everybody, Casey Degnan, senior risk supervisor here at the Superbook. Kevin's going to talk to him. I don't think I'm going to be able to hear him, but Kevin's going to talk to Casey a little bit about how the sausage was made on the opening odds and so forth. Hang on one second. I'm just give you the right bud. Okay. And I don't think I'm going to be able to hear him.
All right. Hang on one sec. Casey, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. How you doing?
All right. How are you? I know you're a busy man. Thanks for a couple minutes of your time. I guess tell us how you came about this line. I mean, open at a pick 'em. We see Phillies now laying a few, but how'd you come to this line?
Yeah, so some of us had Philly small favorite. Some people had pick. So we went with pick. Our look-ahead line, we actually had this matchup as a pick, and we took some real sharp money on the Chiefs, pushing us to 1.5. So that's why we were hesitant to make Philly a favorite. But the Chiefs had some injuries today. They lost a couple of defensive players, some receivers. We took a couple of big bets. The market started moving. We just went with it. And now we're kind of settled at 2.5 for now, it looks like.
And also on the total, how'd you come to that number?
We were anywhere between 48 and 50. A couple of us talking about it in the back. So we went 48.5, and then money came in on the over. So, we had to go with that.
I'm curious on this. If it would have been Bengals, Eagles, what would have been the line?
Bengals, Eagles. I'm trying to think what our look-ahead line was. I think it would have been right around a pick. Our look-ahead line was pick, and we saw no action on it, so that tells you that's a decent line. There was some discussion, but the Chiefs took an early lead, so we kind of, in our heads, we were already talking Chiefs-Eagles early in the game, and we kind of had to pause that for a little bit. But I think it would have been right around a pick. Maybe Eagles won.
Casey, are you surprised that people are, I'm not going to say going against the Chiefs, but on the Eagles early, considering this Kansas City team, third Super Bowl in 4 years?
I am a little bit. I think injuries have a lot to do with it. Chiefs played a closer game. I know the Bengals are, a lot better than Josh Johnson and a Brock Purdy that can't throw. So I think people are looking at that also. I think maybe they think the Eagles D-line could get some pressure. I am a little surprised, though, yes, to answer your question.
Patrick, can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you.
Okay, what do you have for Casey?
Well, I was just going to say, was that what you were seeing that got you through? I saw you went 1.5, and then pretty much straight to 2.5.
Yep.
Professionals coming in early, or what are you seeing?
Yeah, some professionals betting it. Some people cleaning up the board because other markets around town had the Eagles a little bit higher, 2.5. So it was definitely a mix of taking bets and going with the market.
And same with the total. Were you seeing some sharp money on the total?
Yep. Yeah, right away we took a couple over bets, and we realized we had to move it up a little bit.
Okay, and then how are you guys sitting? Obviously, I talked to your boss, John Murray, about this earlier today, and he noted that honestly, this is, when you wrap in the Super Bowl futures, which at this point becomes a lot more important. It is part of the equation for how you're going to manage your position.
Yep.
These were the two teams he wanted. We
were rooting for this.
You guys wanted the Chiefs-Eagles Super Bowl.
We were rooting for this, coming into the day for sure.
So how does that talk a little bit about where you're at in the futures position with these in your futures position with these two teams?
We win to both for sure. It's hard to calculate. We're in Nevada, and then we have another system that is for our 6 other states. But I know that we do good to both these teams, and this is the matchup that we wanted coming into today for sure.
Outstanding. The best among the teams left, this was best for you.
Yep.
Did you guys lose somebody over the course of the playoffs that was either good or particularly bad for you to get them out of the way? Or
we were sweating Seattle and Tampa Bay. Tampa was our biggest sweat because we took a lot of bets early in the year. before people knew Brady was coming back. I mean, I'm sure somebody knew. That's why they bet it. But
Right. Oh, by early in the year, you're talking like last February.
Oh yeah,
March.
yeah. Before the season started, we've been sweating the Bucks ever since.
Okay, but other than that, you've been no biggies one way or the other. Did the Bills getting out of the way? Kevin mentioned the Bills. Obviously, they were a favorite much of the regular season.
Yeah.
Did that help or hurt you guys to have them out of the way?
It helped a little bit. Bills would have been fine for us in the future pools. These teams were better, but we weren't really sweating the Bills that much either.
All right, Kevin, you got anything else for Casey?
What about San Francisco? Did that really help you having them get knocked out?
Yeah, we were rooting for Philly for sure against San Fran. Yep.
No, that's
all
a
right.
good question,
So,
Kevin, because let me jump in real quick. I'm sorry, but I know that Casey noted here at the Super Bowl it was good to get the Niners out. Caesars was really bad to the 49ers from a lot of accumulation of bets, but also from one significant one. They had a $75,000 play at 12-1, so that would have been a $900,000 payout right there on the Niners.
Wow.
I know BetMGM within Nevada was not very good to the Niners, so the Superbook and others all joined in kind of being happy to see the 49ers exit. I think they all would have liked to see a better game, but the 49ers still exit.
Yeah.
But, happy to see them go.
And we were actually sweating exact result. I believe it was Niners over Bengals. It might have been reversed. It might have been Bengals over Niners, but we were like a 6-figure loser to that. So we were happy. We got that out of the way first when the Niners lost earlier today.
How did you end up, Casey, on the Chiefs-Bengals game? Obviously, the point spread really didn't matter, but how did you end up on that?
Oh, we did good. We were sweating the Bengals. First half actually was our biggest sweat, and then we did lose a little bit on the second half. We had some people betting Bengals second half money line, but overall to the game, we needed the Chiefs to win.
All right, Casey, thank you so much for stepping in for a few minutes to let you get back to work. And again, thanks a lot for your time.
No problem. Thank you.
All right.
Right on, man. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, no problem.
Casey Degnan.
Much appreciated there, Casey. Casey's
Yeah,
going to get back to work, and he'll be giving me a bunch more information a little bit later, by the way.
No, that's a lot of good stuff there. That's really, and look, if it would have been Bengals-Eagles, I'm guessing we'd still be in the same spot mostly, right?
I think we would be. I think it would have still been, Casey said it would be pick or one, and obviously people were convinced of the Eagles at pick to get right on them. And as Casey noted, that was professional play coming in right out of the gate. Sharp guys coming in and laying pick 1 and 1.5. Well, you're not laying pick, I guess, but betting pick, laying 1.5 to get them to 2.5 in a hurry. I don't think they would have been any more reticent based on the closeness of that Bengals Chiefs game. I mean, they were neck and neck, although, right down to the wire, and it could have easily went either way. It sure looked like the Bengals were in a really good position there, and just couldn't A, maintain possession, and then B, couldn't slow the Chiefs down. And obviously the penalty was a huge penalty. It would be interesting to see how, I don't know. I think you would have seen overtime if not for that penalty probably. But yeah, I think they would have been eager to get the Eagles either way at that number.
Yeah. And I'm seeing, Patrick, I don't know exactly. I mean, you're obviously a little bit ahead, or I'm seeing a lot of 2s out there right now. The Eagles laying 2. Is that what you're seeing?
Well, let's, you know what? I'm not sure if our VI odds board is updated yet, but let's see if it has. Hopefully it has. And if it hasn't, I trust me, people, it'll be updating soon, and you'll want to follow that for the next couple of weeks. It's a great resource. I don't think they've got it on there yet, so I'm not seeing a full board here yet. But 2.5, maybe that could be an issue of, as Casey noted, the market a little bit, and they did see some good professional money, and maybe they just wanted to slow that down just a touch, and perhaps they have. They're still sitting 2.5 here at the Superbook, at least on the mobile app. So.
Yeah, I want to just pass along this message as well about BetMGM, and I want to tell you about BetMGM. They are they're good friends of ours, and it's never been easier to bet with confidence. That's because the king of sportsbooks is giving you a can't-miss first bet offer with up to $1,000 back in bonus bets. Sign up with BetMGM using the promo code VI bonus. Make a deposit and place your first wager on any sport. If that bet loses, you'll get your original stake back in bonus bets. That's VI bonus, all one word, no spaces, and you get $1,000 paid back in bonus bets if you don't win. Just use the code VI bonus. Visit betmgm.com for terms and conditions. Must be 21 years or older to wager. Offers for new customers only. BetMGM, the king of sports books. And Patrick, again, thank you so much for the time. I know things have quieted down a little bit. I'm sure it was a little nutty there about 40 minutes ago when
Yeah.
Harrison Butker kicked that game-winning field goal.
Yeah, it was definitely nutty. Really, it was kind of a house divided, though. I think it was going to be a lot louder reaction in favor of the Bengals, which really doesn't surprise me because through much of the week, most sportsbook operators that were getting back to me over the course of the week, we're seeing more tickets and money on the Bengals, be it the spread or the money line. Although over the last couple of days, as it became apparent that Mahomes wasn't as dinged as people thought he might be, and that line started moving toward Kansas City, they started getting some public attention. So it was probably a close call by the time we got to kickoff. I thought one interesting point that Jason Scott made. You talked about BetMGM. Jason Scott is the vice president of trading for BetMGM, and again, they're fantastic to us, which we appreciate, as is everybody here at the Superbook. They've been phenomenal hosts today. He noted that what he felt, and I haven't had a chance to follow up with him yet, but he thought that Chiefs-Bengals game was going to see tremendous in-game handle because it was his belief that people were going to wait a drive or two, see how Mahomes could get around, what the Chiefs could do, and then decide how they want to bet the game. And I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case. I'll check in with him on that and report back on Twitter probably. But yeah, he had some interesting things to say. I did a little outreach to him a little bit ago and hadn't heard back yet.
Yeah, really curious to see. I'm going to guess this line's going to hold up, that we'll see Philadelphia go off as a favorite. And, Mahomes, like you mentioned this earlier, he's got 2 weeks to, he's not resting. He's not sitting at home. But, he's got 2 weeks to not play in a competitive game. And I thought that, look, he did as well as he could considering the fact that people thought he may be very limited today and what he threw for over 300 yards in the game. That was a pretty good job. And we don't know what that ankle was at. But, I don't want to compare. I'm doing apples to oranges. You look at like Brock Purdy, couldn't throw the ball 2 yards, and Mahomes was moving around and looking good. Again, he's not an elite quarterback. He's a Hall of Fame quarterback, the best in the game.
Exactly.
Guys that are elite quarterbacks. He's the best in the game. But he played well enough, and he got the Chiefs in the field goal range. He got a little fortunate with that push out of bounds. But now he's got 2 weeks to kind of reset things and hopefully be good enough to get through one more game.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that'll, that extra week is going to help him a lot because I do think I think this week is going to be a bit of a struggle for him. And they may try to keep him off his feet as much as possible this week because it did look like, they were showing some replays where he was going to his left and he had to stop and plant funny. And, the Bengals kept him on his heels, on his ankle, if you will. So he'll probably need that extra week, but that's a big benefit for them. And I gotta, I know this is 2.5 at some places, but I gotta think some people are going to be enthused at getting a couple of points with Patrick Mahomes, a veteran of these circumstances. Jason Scott did just get back to me. If I can throw this in, BetMGM opened Philly -1, and he said we did see a few sharps come in right away, but he did say limits are small. So, and that's another thing to remember. Limits increase as we get closer to game day. They're not taking max bets right now. But he said limits are small, so money is inconsequential. But they are up to Philly -2.5 at BetMGM as well. So there's some twos out there, and Superbook where we're sitting now, and BetMGM, which we get a lot of great assistance from, and they're great sources. They're sitting at Philly 2.5 now as well.
And even though it doesn't mean much, or it does mean something, I don't know. For as bad as Kansas City was against the spread this year, and they just beat Cincinnati and covered in the AFC Championship, they were 1-1 straight up and against the spread this year in the underdog role. They actually closed as a dog at Tampa Bay in that Sunday night game, and they were a dog against Buffalo at home, lost that one earlier in the year. But that's the only 2 times that the Chiefs were an underdog. And again, too, Patrick, I'm going just off the top of my head here. What's funny is Patrick Mahomes, think about this, has never played a road game in the playoffs in his career. He's played 2 neutral site games in the Super Bowl, but he's never played a road game. So we've never seen him as an underdog in the playoffs. This will be the first time. Yeah,
that's interesting. I hadn't even thought about that at all. And, I don't know that it could factor in, if it was the Bengals, it would factor in because the Bengals want to pull that disrespect card off the top of the deck every time. But and maybe sometimes rightfully so. But yeah, that is an interesting stat that he's never had to play a road game in the playoffs, and he obviously won't have one this year, but he will be an underdog. Well, for the moment, he's an underdog. I don't see this swinging the other way, barring anything unusual. I see it maybe coming back some. I'm not sure if I see it swinging to Chiefs or not, but a lot can happen in 2 weeks. And we really, look, we saw a lot happen over this last week. The Superbook last Sunday night opened or actually it was Sunday afternoon. They opened this game with about 10 minutes left in the Bills-Bengals game. That's when the Bills-Bengals game. That's when they opened the AFC Championship game, and they opened the Chiefs 3. And within like half hour, 45 minutes, they got hammered on the Bengals all the way down through Pick'em to Bengals -1. Bengals ultimately got to -2.5, and then the sharp guys started coming back in on the Chiefs, and then we started getting the reports that Mahomes was looking like he was going to, he was a full participant in practice and so forth. So then the Chiefs go back to the favorite. That all happened in just a few days. We've got 2 weeks for this to marinate, so it'll be interesting to see where it goes.
And also, just looking Philadelphia as a favorite of less than a field goal this year. They beat Minnesota week 2 in that Monday night, 24-7. And that's it. And against San Francisco in the NFC Championship, they were laying 2.5, and they won 31-7. So, yes, 2 blowout wins, both at home, as a less than a field goal favorite. So, take that for real. Again, neutral site now, no home field advantage, and also this other little thing to throw out, again, means nothing, but just factoid. Both the Chiefs and Eagles won at State Farm Stadium this year. Kansas City won in week 1 at Arizona. Philadelphia won at Arizona, too. Again, they're not playing the Cardinals this week. They're playing each other.
Right, exactly.
But these teams have played in this stadium this year. And look, it's going to be very entertaining. No matter which 2 teams you had in this game, it was going to be good. No disrespect to the San Francisco 49ers. They were a great story down the stretch, having a third-string quarterback in. We want Mahomes and Jalen Hurts. Look, if it was Burrow and Hurts, it wouldn't be bad either. But you got Mahomes and Hurts, 2 guys up for the MVP. A lot of star power around. The Andy Reid revenge game. Also, that it's going to be very exciting.
Oh, I agree. And like you said, you alluded to 2 MVP candidates, which you would have had either way. But this is there's something about Mahomes. The guy just he generally gets it done. Obviously, they didn't get there last year in the AFC Championship game, but he got there today and really gutted them to victory. And that was a pretty gutty run. He had a really bad wheel, and he somehow got the yards and then got the penalty, and then the Chiefs get the win. And the thing is, the odds makers think of it that way as well. They want even if the Superbook or elsewhere, even if they were horrible to both the Eagles and the Chiefs, they want that matchup because they want that churn. They want everybody to be enthused about the matchup so that they'll bet the matchup. They want as much money coming in as possible. Even like I said, even if they were bad to one or both of these teams in the futures book, which they are not, which really puts them in an envious position. They can just book the game here at Superbook, and that might be the case elsewhere. They can just book the game, and the futures will work themselves out, unless unless the money line play over the next 2 weeks gets out of whack with maybe some 6-figure plays and so forth, which it could. But generally speaking, they can just book the game now, which is, I think, how they really like it. And as you pointed out, it's such a good matchup that the game is going to sell itself. Bettors are going to come to the counter with both fists betting this game. They're going to love betting this game. And you got major markets up in the Northeast betting on it. And I know Kansas isn't a major market, but the Chiefs are a major team and have been for years. They're going to generate a ton of activity.
Got 2 number 1 seeds playing in this game, and the Eagles right now a short favorite against the Kansas City Chiefs. And don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel at Vegas Insider TV. Want to let you know about that. Hit the like button, subscribe, and you get our best bet videos. Also, you can check out Chasing That Paper, Joe Osborne, tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. Eastern. He'll have a breakdown coming up of the game as well as the action in basketball and in hockey as well on Monday. Patrick, before we let you go, I know that you're just going to keep working, because that's what you do, that you're just going to keep working on this. So what do you have for the people that, I guess, you're, again, out west, but for the people then waking up Monday morning as far as an opening line report and what you saw and what are the people expecting?
Right. A lot of what you and I discussed here and what Casey talked about. Casey's going to let this marinate for a little bit longer here at the Superbook, and then he's going to give me some updated comments and his insights on the game and where things are going. That'll be in my opening line report article, which will be up on VegasInsider.com a little bit later this evening, probably too late for, as you noted, some of the people out east. So fresh in the morning, you'll have a nice opening line, a Super Bowl opening line odds and action report, and that will update over the next 2 weeks several times from multiple. We'll source it out to multiple operators, so you'll get a whole lot of different odds makers' perspectives on how this game is bet. And yeah, generally speaking, from book to book, it may be getting bet similarly, but sometimes there are some nuances and some differences from book to book that are worth noting and can help inform you as you try to figure out how you want to bet this game. So that'll be up late tonight. It'll be sitting there first thing in the morning for anybody on the East Coast. In addition, if you jumped into this live stream late, Kevin, as you alluded to, this will be up on our YouTube channel. You can rewatch it on through Twitter as well. And again, Kevin, to your point, Joe, to everybody out there, Joe Osborne and Kevin Rogers do a ton of great video work, picks videos and so forth, consistent, and they'll be doing a ton of Super Bowl stuff, but they're in on a lot of other things too if you're interested. Obviously, college basketball and NBA and all that, but the next 2 weeks the focus is Super Bowl. There's going to be a bunch of great content from those two, and from everybody else who contributes to Vegas Insider. It's going to be wall to wall Super Bowl. There'll be tons and tons of content you can consume on a variety of platforms. I encourage you to check it all out so that you can, when you decide to make your wagers, you go and make a more informed wager, and we can help you hopefully win a few bucks over these next, in a couple of weeks.
And really quick, Thursday, is that the day that we're expecting the Superbook to have the big book props?
Yeah, I'm going to just move so you see that big screen behind me, the last couple of panels where you can kind of see the odds on it.
Hang on, I'm going to put you on the big board. Hang on. There we go.
Yeah, so you see that. It's like there's like 3 or 4 panels of odds, maybe 5 columns. It'll be like 7 or 8 columns. So it'll actually be like where you're seeing a bunch of TV back there now that you can't see very well because of the lighting. It'll take up that whole thing. And Thursday night is when the Superbook will put the props up. They generally have 400 or so different props. And when you start getting into derivatives and all the different ways you can play some of these props, you're talking about literally thousands of opportunities. So they put those up on the big board on Thursday night. And just to give you an idea, like I said, it's about twice the size of what you're seeing there now is how they'll display it. And they have to cycle it through like 3 or 4 times in order to get through every single prop that they offer. So it's a really neat kind of bucket listy thingy if you're in Vegas or if you happen to be out this week. It's a fun thing to come and check out. But yes, they'll have all their props up, and there'll be a lot of really smart customers here looking to find holes where they can or perceived holes where they can in the early odds on these props. And they'll be firing at $2,000 a bet. For a good solid hour Thursday night, there'll be a line that just circles through. You're allowed, I think, 2 or 3 bets at a time, $2,000 max. You make your 3 bets, and you got to go to the back of the line. And then that way they can adjust, because this stuff moves fast and furious. The odds move on these really quickly on Thursday night. It's fascinating to watch. I will have a video report on that shortly after it happens, after it takes place, and then also an article that'll be up late Thursday night, or be waiting for everybody Friday morning on just how the evening went, which props were popular among the sharp guys, which ones saw some significant movement, and so forth, and all that coming from either Casey or one of the other great folks behind the counter here at the Superbook.
Patrick Everson, you can find him on Twitter at @PatrickE_Vegas. Always a great job just grinding with all this stuff, and it's a very busy 2 weeks for him as well. Just a lot of information. Biggest event out there in the year, Super Bowl 57, the Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles. They will be meeting up in Glendale, Arizona, coming up on February the 12th. And Patrick, as always, we appreciate the time. Thank you very much.
You bet, Kevin. And again, everybody, you and Joe and Tito and Michael, a lot of people doing a lot of great work. I ask all of you to take it all in. You guys all do fantastic work. Everybody there grinds, and we're just trying to put out a good product for everybody that helps them, as you like to say. May your bets go well. Or I don't know, I remember exactly how you phrase it, but we just want you guys' bets to go as well as they can. You can't win them all, but the more informed you are with everybody who's working on your behalf at Vegas Insider, hopefully that helps.
Well, Patrick, I'll close out the show with the tagline, so I might as well just give it to you right now. For Patrick Everson, I'm Kevin Rogers. Thanks for watching the Opening Line Report. And as always, best of luck with your bets.
There it is.